We live in a really strange time where there's an overabundance of things, where the overabundance became a solution to a problem where there wasn't enough. Normally, for a large portion of the world, there was a problem with not being enough food, and that problem was solved with now an overabundance of food. You can walk down the street to a grocery store and get almost anything you can think of, and then not even that, you can pack your fridge up, so now we don't even have to do that. You just walk 5 feet to your fridge, whereas before, if you wanted food, somebody had to go out and hunt for, like, it could be a day, it could be weeks, that they're out there trying to find an animal to kill and to take back home and to skin it, to prepare it, and do this whole process. And even if you just want some fruit, you'll be out there for hours picking berries, etc., etc. But now you could literally walk 5 feet in your warm, cozy home to your fridge. And this is a great solution. But now it's become a problem when there's an overabundance. And that goes for a lot of things. It's not just an overabundance of food, but we have now an overabundance of information. And this can make you very confused. As before, if somebody wanted to do a career, it was kind of obvious of what you were going to do a long, long time ago, because you were kind of limited to your network of what your parents did and who you knew, and then kind of like where your skill set laid, and then what was kind of the industry in your area. Whereas now, you can travel anywhere in the world, and it's not about like what your parents did or any of that. It's, you have so much freedom to choose what you want to do, and now there's more jobs than ever. Like, I don't think 50 years ago somebody would have thought playing video games as a job, but there are literally millionaires who became millionaires from playing video games. And so now we have this overabundance of jobs, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, it's a good thing, but it causes other problems where many people are confused because there's so much information, there's so many opportunities, there's so many directions to go, almost an unlimited amount of directions to go in, but we have a finite amount of time and resources. So you can really only become a professional in one of those things, considering that it takes about 10 years to become a professional in anything. That's why doctors, when they go through school, it's literally like 10 to 15 years, right? They have their undergrad, which is 4 years, their medical school, which is 4 years, their fellowship, which is another 4 years. It's like 12 years, a minimum of schooling you need to become a professional. And that's why it's called a profession. One thing I have found to be the solution to this is to try out as many things as possible, because it is basically impossible to say that there is something you want to do when you have no experience in it. And it's very easy to convince yourself that you want to do something, especially nowadays when we see so many movies and TV shows that make it look glamorous, right? You could see a TV show of like a Law and Order type TV show, and it looks like being a lawyer would be super fun. And then maybe you go, like, you think that's what you want to do, and you just go for it without even like shadowing a lawyer or talking to a lawyer, or even just watching videos of what the life is really like for a day-to-day lawyer. And you think it's going to be in the courtroom, winning over the jury and the judge, when really maybe it's just all reading and paperwork. I don't know, because I'm never a lawyer, but I'm assuming that's what it is. I'm assuming it's literally just all reading and paperwork, and yeah, pretty much. I'm pretty sure it's 99% paperwork. Again, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not really acquainted with any lawyers. So that's just an example. And I think if you're lost, the best thing that you can do is to just try a bunch of different things, and not just like pick it up for a day, but like spend some time to get good enough at it, like to see that you've gotten better at it, right? You can't try something for one day and be like, the same for me, because that's when the fun happens. Fun happens when you see yourself improving at something. And if you can stick with something like that long, that's a minimum amount of time you need to decide, was this something I could see myself doing for the rest of my life or not? Because if you can't, if the answer is no, don't do it. If you're doing something because you're just looking forward to retirement, don't do it. If you're looking towards a career because you think, oh, it makes a lot of money, don't do it. Another exercise you can do to even the playing field is just ask yourself, well, if everything made X amount of dollars per year, would you still choose that, or would you choose something else? So, for example, if you were trying to decide between become a doctor or some other career, like ask yourself, well, if they both made $30,000 per year, there's nothing you can do to rise above that. Then which one would you choose? And that can just help even the playing field, because it's very easy to convince yourself that there's something you want to do because of the money or status that comes along with it. And again, because other things make it seem very glamorous. And I think the best thing to do, again, is just to try different things, because the more stuff you try, the least amount of regrets you have. Because if you pick one thing that you think is going to be your career, and then 25 years later you found out it's not for you, you want to do a career change, you're still going to be lost. You're not going to have this foundation of like, well, I had some experience in this and I really liked it. You're going to be starting from scratch again. And so a good thing that you can do to prevent that, again, is to try a bunch of things to figure out first. And if you're lucky, you'll land on the thing you were really meant for, that you really enjoy doing. And if not, at least you've tried a bunch of things, right? You've lived more life. You've had more experiences. And so you get, you have a more well-rounded perspective, all right? And then also you develop more skills, right? The more things you try, the more skills you have in other areas. So it just makes you a more well-rounded person overall. And so this is something that I think is imperative to, not to survive is not the right word, but to just to live in today's era where we have an overabundance of things. And that goes for so many things. You could even say for a diet, like you can't just choose one diet and say, oh, I tried dieting, it doesn't work for me, right? There's so many different types of diets, and one you might find that like, hey, this is easy, I can stick to this, I enjoy this. And one you might find like, there's no way I can do keto, I have to have some bread or something, whatever. There's not, one size fits all, and that goes for everything, especially for careers, for something you're going to choose to do for the rest of your life. And so that's just something I wish somebody would have told me earlier, because I just feel like we live in an era where it's like when you turn, at least in America, it's like when you turn 18, you're supposed to have it figured out. You're supposed to be out of your parents' house and dedicated to one thing and one thing only, and that's going to be your profession until you die. And that's kind of a cultural norm here in the United States, and we value work and work ethic, which is not a bad thing. But I think to pressure somebody to have everything figured out when they're still a teenager, that's why it's 18, a teenager, like you're still a teenager, and we pressure people to have it all figured out while you're a teenager, like, and that's just ridiculous, So I think that's the antidote, is to try a bunch of things. Before you go around telling people I want to do this or that, just put your hands in a bunch of different things. You'll become a more well-rounded person. You'll become more experienced in different things. And if, like I said, if you're lucky, you're going to find out what you love.